The Winds of Winter. Bran. They brought him a fresh bowl, and the steam came up like breath in winter. It smelled of peat smoke and copper, and beneath that a swamp herb tang that made him think of the neck, mud between the toes, gnats dancing in a grey sun, reeds ticking like 1,000 tiny bones. A single reed fibre clung to the rim, pale as a hair caught on a comb. "The seed is ground finer today," Bran said, though no one had asked him to speak. The paste lay darker than before, a bruised brown slop veined with red threads the mortar had not murdered. He dipped 2 fingers and tasted. It was bitter, but a sweet rot bloomed beneath the bitterness. Some grit was not seed. It rasped along his tongue, bone fine, if bones could be ground to dust by patient hands. Leaf hummed a tune made of 3 notes and rain. Mira's voice did not answer it. Mira's voice did not answer anything. She sat by the fire, hugging her knees, her eyes fixed on a darkness the flames could not touch. "Where have the reeds gone?" Bran asked. The pun tasted like ash. Leaf's eyes were old moss, vast and liquid, gone where the green must go, down into the earth, to feed the roots that feed the world. He swallowed. The paste was warm going down, and warmer yet where it spread. Somewhere behind his eyes the roots stirred. He thought of Jojen's last green dream, and could not pull it whole from memory, only a reed laid crosswise upon a stone, and the way the cave light had gone, the colour of old blood. "Again," Leaf said, turning her face as if to listen to water far within the earth. Bran closed his eyes and fell the way snow falls, not down, but everywhere. The darkness dissolved into a grey-scale mist. The roots lifted like the ribs of some white beast, and opened to show him 3 mouths in the wood. One breathed frost, the air of high towers and a cold wind hunting the wall. One breathed green, and he could hear the slow bell of sap and summer flies trapped forever in amber. The last breathed heat without warmth, the light of coin gold on a stone floor, the taste of iron given shape. "Green," Leaf whispered gently from far away. "The dream is yours, Bran Stark." On his shoulder, the 3-eyed crow said nothing. He felt its claws, sharp as glazier's glass, but not its counsel. Bran chose the gold. He stepped, and the mouth became a vein, the vein a thread of pale sap running through darkness. Stone pressed close, and then fell away. He went as a drop goes along bark, following the grain where the grain grew thin, and human hands had shaved it, planed it, lacquered it, until it shone. Somewhere above him a sea was moving in its sleep, the sunset sea crashing against the stone ribs of the west. Somewhere below, men were laughing in corridors where they ought to have walked softly. The thread found the surface of a table and vanished into gloss, and the table was a desk, and the desk was a lion's, and the lion's hand moved. Tywin Lannister's quill made a dry whisper, like a dead leaf skittering on stone. He was younger here. The whiskers that framed his jaw were spun gold, not yet grey, but the eyes were the same, flecks of green in a pale, hard face, eyes that did not blink, eyes that weighed the world and found it light. The chamber was sparse. Tywin Lannister did not care for tapestries that held dust, nor for cushions that invited sloth. Columns marched across the parchment, names and tallies, debts owed to lions and debts owed by kings. The silence in the room was heavy, a physical thing built brick by brick. A small pale leaf, too pale for any court garden, turned once in the air and settled upon the ledger. Tywin brushed it aside with the back of his knuckles and did not look to see from whence it fell. He was remembering. Bran could hear the memory like a song played in a distant room.
But how his father's laugh had sounded when the wine was in him. "Lord Tytos," the memory whispered, soft as a woman, weak as water. Bran saw gold-threaded sleeves gone damp where Lord Tytos wiped his mouth and promised and promised. He saw the day the Reynes came out of Castamere smiling, the red lion of Reyne clapping a hand upon Tytos's shoulder like a man greeting a favoured groom. Laughter, Tywin thought. Laughter in corridors, where lions had once taught men to whisper. The rock had never seemed so hollow to him as it did then. The laughter of the Red Lion and the Lord of Tarbeck Hall echoed off the stone, mocking the toothless lion who sat the high seat. Tywin dipped his quill. The ink was black, thick as tar. He wrote one word upon clean parchment, large enough that even a coward might read it. Pay. Memory is a root, Bran thought, the thought not his alone. It rose out of the wood, from old winters and older wrongs. It hooked and held. The numbers were simple. Insolence compounded faster than interest. You did not answer insolence with petitions. You taught them to stop counting. You taught them silence. Tywin drew a short, sharp line beneath the word. His hand paused there, splayed, the way a hunter might lay a palm to a fallen heart to feel if any warmth remained. They have made a habit of my father, Tywin thought. Habits must be broken. Send for the maps, he said. His voice did not need to rise. It never did. Servants moved, noiseless as thoughts. When the heavy vellum was unrolled, he fixed the location of Castamere with a pin and a ring of weights. The room shrank to distances and gradients. He did not look at the castle walls. He looked at the earth around them, the tunnel mouths, the cisterns, the choke points where a handful of men could make 100 useless, the veins in stone that carried water, and how easily water could be turned to a blade. The song did not exist yet, Bran realized. Songs came after. The work came first. Down in the cave, far away and near as the taste on his tongue, Bran felt the last warmth of the bowl settle in him and become part of the root. He listened to Tywin arrange silence like a mason lays stone, one cold piece at a time. They rode beneath a sky the color of tarnished silver. Tywin kept no banners aloft, save the one necessary to be seen by men who needed to see. He had no wish to be sung of on the road. He meant only to arrive. Bran watched as Tywin watched. The gateworks of the Reynes kept too neat, the smug rests of spears along the battlements, the long, low mouths of the gold mines yawning like bad teeth in the hillside. The air tasted of dust and alkali. The parley was brief. Lord Reyne had learned the sound of Lord Tytos's pleading and believed it the only Lannister tongue. He offered words. He offered a toast to misunderstandings. Tywin declined the cup. He sat his destrier like a statue cast in iron. He asked for apologies that were deeds, not words. He asked for hostages. He asked for the gold they had borrowed and the pride they had stolen. They gave him laughter, thin but bright, as if all the lamp oil in their halls had pooled on their teeth. "Go back to your father's kennel, pup," the Red Lion called down, "and tell him the lions of Castamere do not bow to toothless cats." Tywin turned his horse. He did not raise his voice or his eyes. He raised his gauntleted hand. Rock has a language older than songs. Hammer, wedge, cord, pulley, pit-prop, pump, snares first. The outer farms were emptied by sunrise, granaries lifted, wells salted just enough to turn a tongue against its own thirst. When the first Reyne sortie rode to break the cordon, the ground took their horses' legs at a place that had never been soft before. Men who call themselves brave discover new measures when mounts scream. Within days, the Reynes retreated inside. They took their folk down into the mines, into the deep, cool dark of Castamere, thinking the stone would save them. They are safe in the earth, they thought. No army can breach the gates of the mine. His captains asked for fire. "They expect a burning," Sir Kevin said, young and eager. "They want a show." "They expect me to tire," Tywin answered. "They expect heat. I will answer in weight." Weight came down in the night. Tywin's engineers found the stream that fed the pool beside the mine entrance. A small, blue thing, innocent as a child. "Divert it," Tywin ordered. The first pumps went in at a quiet bend where reeds grew stiff as pikes. Men with shoulders like wine barrels turned handles until palms bled. Inside Castamere, in the dark, they surely heard it. A low rumble, like the earth clearing its throat. "Send water," Tywin said on the third day. Bran heard it, the pulse and cough, the earth's throat taking a cup it did not want but could not refuse. Water found old carvings and made them clean. water found lower halls where night was stored and brought a grey, swirling dawn. The Reynes had sealed the gates to keep men out, but water is not a man. Water has no banner. Water does not mind the taste of different wines. It took less than a day to fill the mines. There were no screams that could be heard through the stone, only the silence of the water rising, step by step, breath by breath. "Will you offer terms?" asked a captain whose name Bran did not bother to keep. Names make stories. Tywin was not making a story. "Terms are a song," Tywin said. "We are making silence." When it ended, it did not end. The mines held breath. Tywin walked the halls the water had not reached. He found the ledger room of the surface keep and laid his palm to a wall that vibrated with the weight of the drowned dead beneath. "Cancel the debts," he told his steward without turning. "All of them." "From the west, my lord?" "From laughter," he said. "And who are you," the proud lord said, "that I must bow so low?" The words drifted through time, seeking a melody. The scene shifted. The air grew hot, stifling, smelling of wildfire and rot. It was the same ledgers in a different room. Light here had a green hunger, the alchemist's glass, bending sun into a flavor, King's Landing, the Red Keep. "Gold," the king said, laughing at the word as if it were a jest between friends with teeth. Aerys Targaryen sat the Iron Throne, but he was not yet the scarecrow scabbing over with madness. He was handsome, sharp, and vain. "You always make it sound like a sermon, Tywin." Tywin stood at the foot of the throne, stiff in his golden armor. The hand's chain felt heavy as a millstone. "Gold is work made durable, your grace. Work has limits." "Limits," the king murmured, rolling the syllables like a sweetmeat beneath his tongue. He had carelessly beautiful hands. Ash ringed the fingernails. "You do love a wall. You and your sweet Joanna." Tywin went still, the stillness of a viper before the strike. "Her grace is well in the west, I trust." "Better than she would be here, surely," Aerys purred. He leaned forward, the iron barbs of the chair perilously close to his neck. "They say the small folk cheer for you, Tywin. They say it is Tywin Lannister who shits gold and rules the realm, while Aerys only wears the crown." "Words are wind," Tywin said, his voice devoid of inflection. "Are they?" Aerys's eyes glittered, violet and wet. "I mean to build a new city, Tywin, of white marble, across the Blackwater. We will leave this stinking pit to the rats. Will you find the gold for that?" "The crown is 3 million dragons in debt to the Iron Bank, and another 2 to my father's house." Aerys waved a hand. "Lent gold. What is lent is given, between friends, between partners, unless you mean to call in the king's debts." "I mean to govern," Tywin said. "Wildfire and marble cities do not put bread in mouths." "Boring," Aerys whispered. "You are so very grey, my lion. Go, count your coppers, leave the dreaming to dragons." Bran felt the twist of an unmoored memory. He saw the years compress, the slights, the insults, the refusal of Cersei for Prince Rhaegar. "You are my bold and hard-working servant," Aerys had said, "but a man does not marry his heir to his servant's daughter." Days later, or earlier, in the muddled soup of time, Tywin stood in his solar in the Tower of the Hand. The door opened. It was not a servant. Joanna Lannister entered. She was fair, with the same green eyes as her husband, but hers held a warmth his had long forgotten. She walked not with a sway, but with a stride. She carried a letter. Tywin turned from the window. The tension left his shoulders, if only a fraction. "Joanna." She did not smile. She placed the letter on his desk. It was a summons from the king for her attendance at court. "He speaks of the bedding," Joanna said. Her voice was low, controlled, but Bran tasted the humiliation sharp on her tongue, bitter as gall. "He jests to his pyromancers that the Lord Hand may do the work, but the king takes the liberties." Tywin's face did not change, but the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. The vein in his temple pulsed, a single violent throb. He did not shout. Lions do not bark like dogs. "He is mad," Tywin said. It was an admission he had refused to make for 10 years. "He is the king," Joanna replied, watching him, "and you are his hand. But I will not be his sport, Tywin, nor will I let him turn our house into a mummer's farce for his amusement." Tywin looked at his wife. He saw the pride in her, the only thing in the world he respected as much as his own. He stepped closer, taking her hands. His touch was gentle, shocking in its tenderness. "You will go home," he said. "And you?" "I have work to finish, but not for long." His eyes were hard as the wall. "He thinks he is a dragon. He thinks fire answers all. He forgets that gold is heavy, and that debts must be paid." "He will not let you go easily," Joanna warned. "He will," Tywin said, "when he realizes that without me he is only a man shouting at the wind." She touched his cheek. "Come home to the rock, Tywin. The lion does not concern himself with the opinions of the sheep, even if the sheep wears a crown." Tywin kissed her hand. It was a solemn vow. "Go, I will follow." Bran felt the grief radiate from the wood before it happened. He knew that when Tywin finally followed her west, she would be dead, and the dwarf would be squalling in the nursery. The tragedy wasn't a shout. It was the silence that came after. The vision blurred. The king was laughing, Joanna was dying, the water was rising in Castamere. Back in the west, the sea beat in its house and could not get out. Tywin stood at the desk with the pale inlay. He was old again. The whiskers were grey. Joanna was gone. Aerys was dead. He took up his oldest ledger. He dipped his quill and wrote the word again, underlining it with a stroke that did not tremble. "Remember." He left the page open to dry. Outside, the sea counted waves as if they were coins and found no end to them. Inside, the candle guttered. "House Lannister is a law, and I am its author," he whispered to the empty room. "No more laughter, no more tears." He touched the spot where the hand's chain had once rested. "I will teach them the sound of lions again, not with roaring, with quiet."
The gold mouth slammed shut. The doors unmade themselves. Bran gasped, sucking in the cold air of the cave. He was back under the earth. Leaf's hum was finished. The fire had burned down to sullen red eyes. His hands were sticky. The bowl in his lap was empty. The taste on his tongue was metallic. Not copper, he realized now. Blood. It tasted of old blood and ancient pacts. "Again?" Leaf asked softly, though her eyes said she would be content if the answer were no. "Not the gold," Bran whispered. The sound of his voice surprised him. He felt heavy, as if he were made of stone. "Not him. The lion has no roots," Leaf said. "He builds on stone, but stone cracks." "Jojen," Bran said, his stomach churning. "Where is Jojen?" Leaf did not answer. She only stirred the embers. "The green went where it was meant to go, Brandon Stark. All ends are roots." Bran looked at the empty bowl. The reed fibre was gone. He ran his tongue over his teeth and felt a grit that was not seed. He remembered the water filling the mines. He remembered the silence Tywin Lannister had built, a silence that drowned everything, even laughter. He closed his eyes, but the darkness was no longer empty. It was full of eyes and mouths and the slow grinding sound of a mortar and pestle working bone into dust. He did not choose any door. He lay among the roots, and the wood counted his breaths until counting no longer mattered.